Well, we're here with Joan Lunden. Of course, you remember Joan. 20 years at Good Morning America. I mean, I watched all the time.
I started when I was about 9, of course.
Well, of course. But it's amazing for me to be sitting here with you because you were the role model that and I always wanted to do a morning show. And now you're here and you're going to be working with us for the royal
Yes, which
wedding.
I'm very excited about. Since I was there, I covered live out of London Diana's wedding and then Sarah Ferguson's wedding. And then about a year after William was born, we had Prince Charles visit this country, and I got to interview him at the time and talk about the children.
You so desperately want to be British, don't you?
Well, okay, I'll give you a little connection here, okay? My original name was Blunden.
Blunden?
I remember.
ABC changed it to London. And Blunden family in England is one of those families of aristocracy. I have Lord.
You have a family crest?
I have Lord and Lady. Yes, there's a family crest. So I could possibly be related to one of them. William, Kate, Diana, Charles, somewhere along there I could be related.
You know,
it could be the Blunden Bridge.
I have to find this out.
because there are these genealogy people now.
I know.
And while you're doing this coverage, you should call them up. They're up in Massachusetts, and it would be fun to find out.
When we were coming live from over there, we found one of my families, and we went to the castle, the Blunden Castle. We shot there and talked to Lady Blunden, and she said, we had 5 daughters. They had 3 daughters, tried for that son so they could get an heir to the title, and had twin girls. So when the father died, the Lord title went to his brother. That's how it happens over there. So when Diana's grandfather died, her dad became the Earl of Spencer.
No kidding.
And not only do you get the title, you get the estate. They got Althorp. So now all of a sudden, here was Diana's dad that had an estate, had a title. He was prime candidate for bachelor out there, and he quickly married actually Barbara Cartland's daughter.
No way.
That's who he
Small
married.
world.
Really small world, because all of the headmistresses of the schools, the boarding schools where Diana had gone, said she never came out, never socialized. She stayed in her room reading Barbara Cartland romance novels.
So fun.
Because she was desperate for that love and romance that she never saw in her own house. You know, and then all of a sudden when the royal family came along and found this little 18-year-old and said, we'd like to cast you in the lead role for this fairy tale, like, that's really intoxicating, and she was swept up by it.
And it really is a fairy tale, and that's why millions of Americans got up so early to watch you talk about them.
But then, you know, and by the way, when I went over there, I had just started Good Morning America. I became the official co-host in 1980, and then I had my daughter, Jamie, my oldest daughter.
Look at that.
Yep, and this is 1981. And when they got married, it was July 29th. It was so hot. You'll remember that Diana just looked like she was kind of wilting, her hairdo, and that tiara, which is really, really heavy, which is, you know, there's tiara gate going on right now.
Sure.
Kate does not want to wear a tiara. She wants to wear flowers in her hair.
But doesn't it have to be one of the pieces from the Tower of London?
According to Camilla, it does.
Right.
I mean, Camilla and the Queen want her to wear a tiara, but it's very heavy. And Kate is like, she said, I want my hair to look good.
Right.
Those things are heavy. They weigh you down. And so now there's some talk that she might acquiesce, but she might get the same tiara that Diana wore. Because remember, because there was a Spencer tiara. She wore the tiara of her family. But there is no Middleton tiara.
Well, that would be really
like there would be
interesting.
no Ducey tiara.
Oh, excuse me, Miss Blunden.
But that would be
The heir to the Blunden Bridge.
Right.
She's wearing Diana.
And a lot of Brits think that that's a little spooky and that that's like the curse.
Yeah.
So if she comes out in the same tiara, I don't think might put them over the edge.
Let me ask you this, because you did cover it for Princess Diana. Do you think that America would have the same reaction to this wedding as that?
You know, there was an audience, a television audience of like 3 billion. It was about 750 million that watched Diana's wedding, 2.5 billion that watched her funeral. The only thing that I would say I think it is going to gain momentum, and we don't have royalty. It's these out there. It's Cinderella, you know. However, we have become so accustomed to knowing the details of everyone's life and pictures of everyone's wedding, just because I think that Diana was the start of American real sensational tabloid press.
You're probably right.
Because all of a sudden, for the first time, we expected to know and wanted. We had an insatiable urge all of a sudden to know every detail.
Yeah, but she was living a tabloid life. I mean, you know, what's going on with him, and then Charles and Diana divorced. Next thing you know, she's
but you know, it's
around.
Interesting.
She's with Dodie.
Yeah,
but
well,
when we could
it's not
go,
like he was sitting home making
but,
popovers.
like I said,
sure.
it's a tabloid life.
But you know something? In all fairness, Charles probably looked at it. I mean, he told his friends, I don't love Diana, but you never know. It could happen.
Good for business.
It could happen. I have to do this. It's my royal duty. And for centuries, it has been accepted practice that all royal males can philander. They can all have mistresses. So he probably wasn't too terribly concerned. He knew he could still have Camille on the side. And Diana was like every woman. I'll change him.
Yeah.
You know, the love will grow. I mean, it's a typical kind of viewpoint of females.
But the interesting thing is that for the first time, if that was the accepted lifestyle,
it was.
It was put in the press.
Yes.
You know? So
well,
then everyone started finding out about it.
Big difference. Big difference. And I don't think the royal family saw it coming down the tracks. Here you had this vulnerable fairy tale little princess that captured the hearts of the world, and she became a really big story. And just by the mere fact that they did not have guards out in front of her apartment, when you went to cover her early on, you could stand out on that street and she'd come out of her apartment dressed to go to be an assistant at kindergarten, so she wasn't dressed up. And the press was just everywhere. They'd follow her as she would get into her car. And you know, I don't think the royal family placed guards there and brought her in and gave her the kind of training that Kate is getting now, because I don't think they saw the train coming down the track.
Right.
I don't know if they anticipated what was about to happen with Diana, in all fairness to them.
And when she died, they completely mishandled that.
Well, they you know, they live in their own little world of importance.
You'd think they lived in a castle.
Yes, you'd think they lived in a castle. They have a lot of castles, though, that cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
And they know that the British people who are taxed, the British people get taxed, each and every one of them. And that money goes every year to run all these castles and the yachts and the jets.
You'd think that they would not like that, especially with their
the
budget
tea
crisis
parties,
right
well,
now.
they don't. And there's plenty of them. And, you know, it's interesting. If you think back to 1981, that was a time where the future of the monarchy was really in question. I mean, the British at that time had the royals up to here. So they desperately needed an infusion of good PR.
A second act.
They
got it with her.
They needed a second act, but they got more than they bargained for, because while she was in there, she grew up.
Because we can't handle her.
I mean, I don't think that they anticipated her coming into her own, but
No way.
It was just a convergence of lives, you know?
One of the interesting things about Kate Middleton, and we were discussing in the broadcast show, the differences between Kate and Di. But even when William broke up with Kate, she did not go to the press. She did not say a thing.
Okay. That's the most important quality. I mean, it doesn't make any difference that she's, you know, done well in school and Diana didn't, or that she already knows how to dress. I mean, she's 28. Diana was 17 when they first spotted her. The difference really with Kate Middleton is that she has shown the ability to be loyal. I mean, just stop and think about it. They had that chance to let that romance grow for 4 years away there at St. Andrews, because the royal palace had made this privacy pact with the press, which is kind of extraordinary if you think about it. They have a commission over there that was able to do that. We don't have a like entity here in this country. And yes, but they made this privacy pact so that they would stay away from school and they wouldn't have any cameras around. They were allowed to come in on the first day, but they had to be out of town by nightfall. And then they agreed to do interviews on momentous moments, like his 21st birthday and graduation. And by the way, Prince Charles did invite the Middletons to have dinner with them on graduation day. But they went through that entire college time, 4 years, with no press pictures.
Under the radar.
Living in the same apartment, the same flat. So that was, you know, here we have two young people who were able to be friends, share notes, then little romance.
Can you imagine if the child of the President of the United States lived in the same apartment with a member of the opposite sex who happened to be their boy or girlfriend?
Yeah. I mean, there were 4 of them, we should say. It wasn't as though that they kind of moved in.
But still.
So only those 4 truly know when the hookup first came. You know, but
and the other two aren't talking.
And the other two aren't talking. And you know, William used to feed some of his friends false stories, just as his little friend loyalty test to see if those stories made it into the press. But she has not taken a misstep anywhere along the way.
You know, and I hope we don't find out all those details, because as I'm looking at this, I'm thinking that this is going to be a good news story for Americans. There's a lot of stuff going on in our country and in the world right now, and they can look at this beautiful young couple and say, let's wish them the best, and let's vicariously live through their, we hope, happiness. And that's the way I'd like to look at it. I don't really care about when they first hooked up. I don't want to know.
I'm more interested in how the two of them, because there's a lot of talk going on over there that she's going to abdicate the throne, and this is going to be pretty much a wedding present to William, and that we'll see probably in 2 or 3 years William become the King of England. And that's going to be important because they're really being looked to change things. And I think that they're really going to be, I think he might actually be a leader of change and come in and understand that you can't keep that many palaces going and hold on to them within the royal family at, you know, the cost of almost $500,000 a year.
Yeah, but first they're going to have a little chat with Charles. Hey, come here. You're not going to get the big hat.
Well,
sorry, Charles.
The word is that the Queen has already had that discussion with Charles and said, we're going to pass you over.
Sorry.
Wow. He's way too unpopular. And, I mean, I don't know. I mean, the British people, if they had to endure Camilla becoming the Queen of England, I think that would be the end of the British monarchy.
Boy, you guys are going to have a lot to talk about. Yeah. London. You're going to London shortly, right?
I'll go next week. I'll be there all week doing stories for you guys.
Terrific.
We'll look forward to that. Great to see you.
Yes,
so glad this all worked out, and we'll see you again next week.
You got it.